All right, I want to do a quick little rant review video about the touch bar. And I know why make a touch bar video considering this thing came out like what 4 or 5 something years ago. Uh, it comes to mind because it looks like that Apple might not be killing it off this year, which for those of us that like the touch bar is kind of a cool thing, but it's very divisive, and I think I've nailed down why it was not the success that Apple really wanted it to be. Traditionally, when Apple would get rid of or make changes to technology, they did it across everything. So, for example, the removal of the floppy drive, they did it on all their devices. When they removed the headphone jack, famously, right, people thought the world was ending, but they did it on all their phones eventually and pretty much forced the change. Same thing with USB, same thing with the removal of the DVD drive eventually. So with the touch bar, what they did was they put it basically on one computer and gave people numerous options not to have the touch bar, which is what created this two camp system of which one did you want to be in. Do you want the Air with to have a laptop that doesn't have a touch bar? Did you want to buy the cheap MacBook Pro 13-inch that still had the function keys? Or did you want to buy the more expensive ones that came with the touch bar? Or do you still want the iMac that had a keyboard with function keys? Or do you want to use your laptop with a touch bar but with an external keyboard that does not have the touch bar? And what you do is you create a a system that doesn't work together. It's not the same usability. God, how do I get my thoughts together? One of my favorite courses in college was usability, and I love the idea of usability for websites and software implementation, where anybody with any amount of knowledge and zero training should be able to look at your product or look at your web page and instantly know what to do. And so many companies fail this. You know, there's a place you're supposed to click, you don't know you're supposed to click it, things that are buttons that don't look like buttons, for example. So the touch bar is one of these things that is great once you learn how to use it, but you're never going to learn how to use it because there's so many options not to have to use it. Secondly, I think hardware-wise, while it's an engineering marvel, they screwed things up. So when you look back at the 13-inch Pro when they first came out with it and they had the option for the function keys, it was this height right here. I think the touch bar is too small for what they really want it to do. It should have been a little bit bigger, hence the full-size function row of the new Pros and so forth. But that's a usability issue, is that it's too small. A second thing that was kind of funny is when it first came out, it was on the Intel MacBooks, not this M1 version, which stays nice and cool, but the touch bar on the Intel version would get hot, physically hot, which is not something you want in a touch device. You don't want it to be hot to the touch and uncomfortable to use. Thirdly, it's at a bad angle. It's flat, and go ahead and pick up your phone and hold it in your hand and tell me, do you hold it completely flat like this to use it, or do you angle it up at yourself? Of course you angle it up towards yourself. That's just normal. So if this thing was just a little bit larger and angled just a little bit more, it would be much easier to see from your perspective of the screen and when you're and reaching up to it. I think from physical design, these are the problems that I have with this thing. So what does Apple do with this? Well, they've kind of already made their choice that it's probably on its way out. But there is room for improvement. They could make this bigger. They could angle it. People have argued, well, what if they made a function row and put the touch bar on top? But then that defeats the purpose of replacing the function keys in the first place. You're giving people choices, but not forcing them to change. And it's so many problems. What they should have done is put the touch bar on every device, which is what I expected. I thought for sure when I saw the touch bar that they would have brought it to the external keyboard that you get with the iMac, the external keyboard that you use with your laptop when you hook it up to an external monitor. I mean, they brought over Touch ID finally, but they never brought over the touch bar. So you're breaking that continuity. And let's say that the the touch bar is on arguably Apple's least popular computer. So the percentage of users that are actually going to interact with the thing is very low. And now you've given them two choices. With the Air, you've given them a 98% solution of getting almost the exact same computer. And while the Air used to be the expensive premium thin and light, it's now become Apple's most affordable computer. So your most popular laptop that everybody's going to use doesn't come with this device. The least popular model that you sell has it, and yet you're expecting this thing to be popular and and wanted and successful, and it just doesn't work that way. You're giving people an option that nobody's going to use. It's kind of like this is the manual transmission Lamborghini. I don't know how to describe it. It's an option that's available, but so few people are going to go out and get it. You're only going to get those die-hard users, kind of like a manual transmission car. You have to really hunt for it and really want it and know why you want it in order to get to it. By the way, hashtag save the manuals. But if you're just a general user, a normal consumer, you don't care what transmission your car has. It has an automatic, that's fine. That's your function row, that's your MacBook Air. So these are the things that I think Apple's doing wrong. I hope they fix it. There's ways to fix it. You put it on every device and you make people use it. You can kind of go that second route where you make function keys and you put the touch bar up there and you kind of get a hybrid system going. That might save it. Or, sad to say, you might have to say, you know what, throw in the towel on it. The cost of producing this and maintaining it just isn't there. I hope they do something better with it. I hope the technology survives. It has a lot of potential. It just hasn't been, it just really hasn't been utilized properly. And that's it. And that's my thought on the touch bar. We'll see what happens.